We are so happy to have Whitfield Lovell back here in Richmond tonight to talk about the installation Visitation, the Richmond Project, which was curated in 2001 by Ashley Kistler. And we will have both of them in conversation this evening. And Visitation, the Richmond Project is the final gallery in the exhibition, Whitfield Lovell Passages, which is on view in our lower level galleries through this Sunday, September 10th, as Alex said, and I'm just telling you again to make sure you all come and see it. So Whitfield was born and raised in the Bronx, and he currently lives and works in New York City. He received his BFA from the Cooper Union School of Art in 2007, and he was awarded with the MacArthur Foundation Fellowship, often referred to as the Genius Grant. Whitfield is best known for his installations that incorporate masterful Conte crayon portraits of anonymous African Americans between the Emancipation Proclamation and the Civil Rights Movement. And using vintage photography as his source, he often pairs his subjects with found objects, evoking personal memories, ancestral connections, and the collective American past. Lovell has exhibited extensively, both in the US and abroad, and some of his most recent solo exhibitions have included Marks in Time at Arthur Roger Gallery, Le Rouge et le Noir, What's Past is Prologue, Early Works, 1987 to 1998 at his gallery DC Moore, and Whitfield Lovell's Kin and Related Works at the Phillips Collection. Passages will go on to 4 more venues: the Arkansas Museum of Fine Arts, the Cincinnati Art Museum, the Mint Museum, and the McNay Art Museum. So our other guest this evening is Ashley Kistler. She is an integral part of the Richmond arts community, and she has a curatorial career spanning over 35 years. She has served as director of VCU Arts Anderson Gallery, curator at the Visual Arts Center of Richmond, and associate curator of modern contemporary art here at the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts, where she worked for 15 years after receiving her MA in art history at VCU. Kistler has organized dozens of exhibitions featuring work by regional, national, and international artists, as well as artists' residencies and commissions, public art projects, and events. She has also authored and edited numerous exhibition catalogs, as well as books, Anderson Gallery, 45 Years of Art on the Edge, and Nancy Blum, Drawing, Sculpture, and Public Works. She currently works as an independent curator and writer and chairs the city's Public Art Commission. So tonight's program will start with a presentation by Whitfield on Visitation, the Richmond Project, followed by a Q&A on stage with Ashley Kistler, and conclude with a Q&A with you, our lovely audience. So I would now like to invite Mr. Whitfield Lovell onto the stage.
Hi. I'm happy to be back here. It's like deja vu, but there are more of you, which is nice. It's been really wonderful having the Richmond Project come back to Richmond and reconnecting with Ashley Kistler and some of the VCU students I worked with. When I created the piece, it was late September 2001. And I, from New York and downtown New York, and I had just experienced this 9/11 thing, and I had to get down here. So I had half of my brain was trying to pull itself together from New York, and then at the same time trying to pull it together to be here. And some of the people who helped with the project were just so wonderful, and it was such a sort of healing place to be. So it's nice to be back. I guess I'll start by showing you this one. I got off the train because I wasn't getting on an airplane at that time. I got off the train, and Ashley brought me to the hand workshop, and I saw the space, and I met with the 15 or so VCU students that I had working with me. Now, Ashley actually approached me about doing a project based on Jackson Ward. And so I was, I had all of this curiosity and excitement about Jackson Ward. And one of the VCU students, the first question I got was, because I like to go to the venue or the city and learn about the history and then let the ideas come. I didn't have a preconceived notion of what I would do in terms of Jackson Ward. So one of the first questions I got was, how will your work, how will you deal with being in this seat of the Confederacy? And I was like, I'm not here to deal with that. I'm here to deal with Jackson Ward. And so the next day, I went on I had two VCU students take me around. One was Sarah Ferguson, and the other was Arjan Zazueta. Yeah, cool people. They took me around, and I saw Lynchburg, Fredericksburg, and then another woman who was working with the group named Kauthar Elmi took me around the areas, and I was also staying in a house on Monument Avenue. And so it took me like a day and a half to realize that I couldn't do a Richmond Project without somehow addressing the Civil War and slavery. So one of the ways I chose to deal with that, to touch upon that, was with this piece. It's called Restoreth, and that is a drawing which I made from a little tin type that I found in an antique store right across the street from the hand workshop. And I went out and found all of these jars and bottles that contained remedies like pills, aspirins, and things like that, tonics, and that was the first piece. And then I did this one, which is called Battleground. I found the cannonball, and I also read and learned that there were about 150,000 Union soldiers who were African American fighting for the Union Army. And so I decided I needed to represent that. And that book on the pedestal is open to a page which talks about the fact that most people believed that slavery would end naturally rather than through abolition. And I thought that was ironic. It was an old book. And I met with a lot of scholars at VCU and also another school here, I don't remember, but one was Babatunde Lawal, and one was Njeri Jackson, who taught Black Studies. She was a wonderful, wonderful influence on the project. And we went to the Virginia, what was then called the Virginia History Museum? Historical Society, right. And her name was Bernadette? Laurinette, that's right. So I learned all about the Richmond, and one of the things that struck me also was that I had never been to a city where the locals knew so much about their history. People, you go somewhere and they'll say, oh, that's where such and such happened, and that's where the slave market was, and it was amazing. Just like, I live in New York City, and no one knows anything about that place. So I went to visit Maggie Walker's house, and I learned that Maggie Walker was the first African-American to open a bank, and the first woman to open a bank. And so the name of her bank was the Penny Savings Bank. And so first I did these round pieces, which are on foundry molds, and I drew faces on them. I was thinking of them as coins. And then I did this tableau, which is called Our Best. It was drawn from a collection of photographs that I found of early Jackson Ward residents at a church picnic. It's called Our Best, and it's 23 feet long. It was the largest tableau I had ever done up to that point. And so the boxes have I should also mention, the students were really troopers because they hauled this wood out of the truck and into the yard, and they cut it, and I matched up all the planks until I got this huge 23-foot piece, and they helped me nail them all together, and no one complained once. It was just wonderful. The boxes are filled with pennies, in reference to the Penny Savings Bank. Now here's a panel which was from a different photograph from the others, and I chose to sort of, it protrudes in front of the other panel, and there's a huge box of pennies behind him. There's also a box of pennies behind that man who seems to be coming up out of the ground on the left side. So I think we had about $500 worth of pennies. At the library, at the Historical Society, or somewhere, there was like a photocopy of a ledger book for like a community neighborhood association meeting. And so all of the people who were members of the neighborhood association in Jackson Ward were listed. And I chose, I felt that I really wanted to drive home the fact that these were real people. You know, sometimes we get so used to looking at vintage photographs that we don't take the time to really take them in and really look at the fact that these were really living, breathing people who were alive, just as we are here today. And so I wanted to include their actual names. As you are in the main space, you'll hear a recording playing just like in the air is a reciting of those residents' names. And that is the voice of Njeri Jackson, the Black art professor, Black studies professor that I mentioned. I thought she had a very beautiful sort of musical voice, and she was she was perfect for it. And we have the parlor, which to me this is the Visitation. When I was here for 6 weeks, and it was quite a feat to find the lumber, and it was quite a feat to find just the right objects to evoke the ambiance that I wanted. I wanted to engage all of the senses, sound, aroma, and I wanted the lighting to evoke a certain mood. So I worked mostly late at night, and when I wasn't working or sleeping, I was out shopping for objects. And those glasses, they have actual whiskey in them. Here's like a writing table with letters addressed to Richmond addresses. I got this at one of those antique malls in town, and so everything came together. I mean, I really feel that I like the idea of coming to the place and letting the place speak to me, and then I decide what I will do with the information and how to evoke the essence of that era and of the successes and triumphs and challenges of the residents of Jackson Ward, without me being a historian, just with me trying to feel them and put it all together. There's sound in that room, which the sound is always very geared toward enhancing the ambiance. It can't be just anything. There's a gospel tune playing in there, and I actually sat in there one night and played several gospel tunes on my Walkman. That's, like this thing people used to have. And so I chose the one that really seemed to fit. And this is a sheet music book, a book of hymns, and I purposely opened it up to this page where the song is Our Best, and so therefore I decided to title the picnic image, the large tableau, Our Best. The drawings are Conte and charcoal directly on the wood. And there are little tableaus, little vignettes, sort of place. I mean, my work has a lot to do with placements. And, you know, I spend a lot of time trying to place things in just the right spot so that, in a way, I think of this as a painting, but I'm painting the space. And, you know, like when you're working on a painting, you know you need a brushstroke up here. Well, when I'm creating an ambiance, I know when something's needed, some focal point, not something that would take away, but something that would enhance and work harmoniously with the rest of the objects in the room. Opening night, there's a tradition of putting a roast chicken, collard greens, and candied yams on the plate. This installation actually traveled to Sydney, the Sydney Museum of Contemporary Art in Australia, and they were like, collard greens? What are collard greens? Now, this is the last slide I'll show you you know, at the moment. And this is the group of young people who really were responsible for fleshing this thing out, and that the smiles on their faces were just, you know, they were like that every day, and so it was quite a uplifting experience to work with them, and I believe they learned things and they enjoyed what they were doing, and I loved them, each and every one. So that there are a couple of other slides here, I think. Yeah, these are my 2 publications, and there we go. So thank you.